All right, all right. Mic check 1 2, mic check 1 2. Here we are. And we are here after a I don't even know what we watched. What's going on, everybody? As usual, let's get a W in the chat if you guys can hear me. Mic is unmuted. If you guys can see the color right here. Got the mic on the right setting. And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this episode of the Cutline. How y'all doing today? I'm Armani DePaul, and after it was a race. It was definitely a race at Bristol Motor Speedway. We'll talk about that. Obviously, if you want to know where Bristol's going to rank in terms of above, below the cut line, spoiler alert, it's going to be below the cut line, and of course, we'll get to the main issue with that later on. Before we do that, however, I do want to go into this new segment that I am starting this week, and that is going into the daily Downforce Discord chat. We're going to go into the Downforce Discord chat and see what everyone over there has to say about the race. So, here we are, the daily Downforce Discord, which, by the way, before we get started, I do want to give a massive shout out to everyone in the daily Downforce Discord chat. Because if you guys noticed that the iconic NASCAR songs part 2 short came out earlier, a couple days ago. And I asked the Downforce chat for suggestions for what song should be here, what song should we include in this short. Everyone gave fantastic suggestions. We took 4 of them. I believe it was Sideways by Dierks Bentley, a couple of NASCAR video game songs, and, you know, that short was for them. Even at the end, I gave a shout-out to the Downforce Discord, and massive shout-out to everyone at the daily Downforce Discord. It is a fantastic community over there. I get in there a lot. Everyone is great over there, so I do want to give a massive shout-out to the daily Downforce Discord for help for that short for suggestions. Speaking of the Downforce Discord, here we are in the race reaction, and let's see what we got here. So, we're going to start a little bit towards the top. The race just ended about maybe 10 minutes ago, and let's see here. There was actually a lot of talk about, I want to go to this one right here. Hopefully someone other than Polo. There's actually a lot of talk about the IndyCar race. That should tell you how bad the Cup race was. I'm not blaming NASCAR. They just got unlucky with the weather. This is from Joshua 8824 Racing. Yeah, they got unlucky with the weather, Josh, but I mean, I'll get more to it later on. But long story short, I don't think that we're getting to the point now where NASCAR is at the mercy of the weather because they can't build a good race car. P over here. P ... Literally nobody's no one's saying that it was great except Larson fans. Chill out. I'm not sure exactly what was going on over there. I'm considering what this is referring to. I don't really want to. I'm a Larson fan, and I'm putting this race below the cut line. Where I'm going to put it in race weekend rankings. You guys can see that when we get later on into that part of the show. An average meme lord. Well, that was the biggest waste of 3 hours of 2025. Thankfully, it wasn't really 3, more like 2.5. If Bristol's gonna have a boring race, at least the race is done fast. I'll give it that. But yeah, that race was terrible. I mean, there are people who are saying that the Masters is more entertaining than this Bristol race, which I'm not a big golf guy. I personally think golf is really boring, but I'm willing to bet a lot of money that the Masters was more entertaining than that Bristol race we just watched. Here's another one here. Byron back up to 6 to salvage a good points day. I mean, yeah, Byron didn't have a good run. And we'll look at the top 10 results because there are some above the cut lines that I do want to give for those, for that. But, yeah, Byron had a good day. 3-time champ Joey Logano, BS race. I agree. Great day for Ty Gibbs from Elite #1 Legacy Motor Club Defender. I picked Ty Gibbs in fantasy, and he had a great points day, so that should help me. I picked Priest last week, and that didn't do well for me at all. Good bounce back for Ty Gibbs, though. Actually, Ty Gibbs will be in the above the cut line. We'll talk about that later on. of Mr. Kickstar, of all the races I've seen, this is definitely one of them. Yeah, basically what I said earlier. Yeah, this was a race. This was a race all time. And I feel like that's all you can really say about it. Thank you, God. Thank you for the Larson win from I Hate My Life. Considering that your icon is Chase Elliott, yeah, that makes sense. 3. Okay. I think this is a good segment to start going into our segments right here. And by the way, there will be no guests this week, so we're going to do something a little bit different here. There's no guest this week for the Cutline. We will have one next week, however. So instead of having someone to talk with back and forth, I want to engage more with you guys, whether it's in the Discord or you guys in the comments section. I want to engage with you guys like you guys are the guests. And then we're just having a back and forth conversation. So I'll kind of want to replace the guest because we don't have one this week with that. But actually, thank you 3-time champion Joey Logano, because I want to go to what I was saying. I want to start talking about, oh, those are the analytics. Let's start off with below the cut line. And I do want to put this race as below the cut line. So before we do that, I want to put this up. So this is my normal unintended plug for my Twitter. As you can see here, I said during the middle of the race, because there was a lot of people on Twitter who were saying that, oh, we got rid of Bristol Dirt for this. You know, Bristol Dirt should be this race, not the Food City 500. Folks, let's just read what I said here. Guys, Bristol Dirt is not the answer. We know the problems. The track isn't one of them. And this is someone who liked Bristol Dirt and wants a Cup Dirt race. Maybe we talk about that later on. However, I stand by what I said. The problem isn't Bristol. The problem isn't the track. I'm even going as far as to say the problem isn't the tire. We all know what the problem is. The problem is that NASCAR, I'm going to say it like it is, built a bad race car. This car is not good on short tracks. This car is okay. Let's stick with the short tracks, because that's where we're at. This car is not good at short tracks. Martinsville, you know, unless they have excessive tire wear, which is a rarity with this car, is a doozer. Bristol, the last 2 trips there have been a doozer. Richmond hasn't been good in over a decade, but Richmond is a doozer. Even the 1 mile tracks, Phoenix, New Hampshire, you name it, they're all snoozers because this track doesn't do well at short tracks. Short tracks, you want beating and banging, you want comers and goers, you want tempers flaring. You don't get that with this race car. You don't get beating and banging because everyone can just kick it down into 4th gear and save it. The tires are way too wide, so no one can really knock each other out the way unless you just bulldoze through them Sammy Smith style. Like, what do you want? Like, this car is not a good race car for short tracks. It's good for 1.5 miles. Nowadays, road courses, they've been pretty good. And super speedways are so hit and miss. This car is not good at short tracks. It's not a Bristol problem. It is a next-gen problem. And the worst part is, Formula 1 is having the same issue right now, where you go into a new generation. Let's go back to 2022. F1 and NASCAR, I think, are in a very similar situation. They developed this car, whether it was the new regulations with the ground effects in Formula 1, or NASCAR's case with the Gen 7 car. Building cars in a new philosophy, hoping to reduce the effects of dirty air. F1 was the ground effects, and NASCAR was the diffuser, spec racing, you name it. In the beginning, it worked. In 2022, we had more parity in NASCAR. Obviously, 19 different winners. F1, we had a closer title battle, even though NASCAR Max won 15 races. The problem is, you can't build a car around the team's development. At some point, the teams are going to figure out these new cars, and they're going to exploit their issues to make themselves faster. F1 is going through that problem right now. I mean, those cars, they used to be great 3 years ago. Now they're a mess. They're worse than what they were back in 2021, 2020, the old regulations. And NASCAR is the same problem. The 1.5 miles are even starting to suffer. The short tracks, yeah, well, slightly better. It's still not great. The only type of racing that has really improved is road course racing. Super speedways are the same. Mile and a half, if anything, have gone slightly worse. And like I said, the short tracks are the same. Because the teams are always going to figure out how to get through it. And people need to understand, it is not the team's job to have good racing. The teams have one job: go as fast as possible and try to win the race. It is NASCAR's job to develop a car that is capable of having close racing, capable of passing. NASCAR's job is to give the teams the blueprint. And the team's job is to work around that blueprint and build whatever they can build. NASCAR gave the teams a bad blueprint. They gave them a poor one. And the teams just work with what they got. They're like, okay, well, at this what we got to find another way to go faster. And that's how they're doing it. But the problem is also that I feel like Bristol this race was a culmination, really the last 2 weeks, is just a culmination of everything that's wrong with this race car. And really the industry as a whole. Close racing, spec racing, which in my opinion is the worst thing ever in top level motorsport. Bad tire wear, you name it. It is a recipe for disaster, and Bristol is a prime example. This is still my favorite track on the calendar, but it's a shell of its former self because we have a spec car where everyone's running the same. We got tires that don't wear, and you got a car that just can't pass. I mean, folks, let's go to the tire wear for a second because I know everyone was talking about that. I really do stand by this statement where I feel like NASCAR put Goodyear in a terrible situation. A bigger tire, a wider tire, is automatically going to have more grip in it. You know, when I first heard that the next gen was got bigger tires and bigger brakes, I was thinking, damn, they're going to go deeper to the corners and more dive bombs makes for more excitement. But all it did was just, it did the exact opposite, if you will. It's just everyone can do that, but the problem is everyone is doing that. So it's more or less the same. And again, there's so much grip on the track that you can't knock someone out the way. And there's no tire wear. I mean, folks, I got it in my notes right here for this week at Bristol. Ryan Blaney ran over 175 laps on his second to last set of tires. 175 laps. That's almost a third. I think that's over a third of the race. The fact that you can run a third of the race on the same set of tires, and I'm pretty sure Blaney just pitted because he needed fuel. I'm pretty sure if he had a full set of fuel all the way till the end, he never needed to pit. That's unacceptable. That is horrible. Remember, NASCAR is the exact opposite. It's not like the real world where you don't want massive tire wear in your tires because you don't want to spend $400 on a new set. In racing, you want more tire wear because you want the drivers to be able to make it work. This 175 laps on your tires is atrocious. Terrible. You should never want that. Because why is anyone going to pit? And the racing is always terrible when that happens. I mean, we all got duped yesterday on Saturday. We saw that the tires cording. We saw all the marbles on the top of the track. We thought we were in for a banger. I even tweeted yesterday, this race is going to be a movie. This was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Worse than After Earth, my least favorite movie of all time. And say what you want. Oh, NASCAR was unlucky with the weather. It was hotter than we thought it was going to be. We should never be at a point where NASCAR is at the mercy of weather to whether or not racing is going to be good or bad. That is a problem. It doesn't matter if it's 45, 60, 100 degrees. It should be good racing no matter what. At least good. And the fact that we got this is atrocious. Terrible. Disgusting. One set of tires throughout stage one. 125 laps straight. And Cliff Daniels said on the radio, yeah, the tire wear wasn't that bad after 125 laps. That is unacceptable. But again, everyone's going to go to blaming Goodyear. I'm not blaming Goodyear. Goodyear can only do so much to mask the fundamental flaws of this race car. What more do you want them to do? NASCAR asked them to make a wider tire, a bigger tire, a tire that inherently's got more grip for a car that fundamentally doesn't wear the tire down. It's like NASCAR got it's like a group project. NASCAR, basically, think of this as a group project. NASCAR did the majority of the work. It's like, let's say NASCAR 70%, Goodyear's 30%. NASCAR did its 70% of the job terribly. Goodyear's doing its 30% of the job fine. And NASCAR is asking Goodyear to pick up the slack for his failure. Is that fair to Goodyear? And this is coming from someone who's really talked down on Goodyear, especially the later ends of the Gen 6 era. But there's only so much the tire manufacturer can do when the car that it's producing tires for is actively going against it. There's only so much Goodyear can do. And that's why this race is below the cut line. That's why this tire is below the cut line. I don't put Goodyear below the cut line because, again, I put NASCAR in the Gen 7 below the cut line. That's what I put below the cut line. I'm not putting Goodyear below the cut line. I mean, again, Blaney went over 175 laps on his set. Imagine if he had more fuel to go to the end. I don't think he would have pitted. I really don't think he would have pitted at all. I mean, it's just the temperature's too low. The temperature's too hot. Folks, it shouldn't matter what the temperature is. All that should matter is the racing is good or the racing is bad. And that comes down to the race car. NASCAR doesn't want to do what it needs to do and put horsepower in the damn thing for whatever reason, because they think it's going to attract a new manufacturer when we haven't had a new manufacturer in over 12 years, 13 years at this point. And Dodge is the one who's coming in, who's known for high Hemi horsepower. And they're trying to bring in Honda, who builds F1 and Indy cars, which easily produces over the horsepower that NASCAR, that the Cup cars make right now. I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. It's just terrible. It's just terrible. So yeah, this was below the cut line easily. Tire wear was a problem. You have a car that just doesn't do it. I'm going to do something a little bit different this week. And I'm going to go through the running order, but not through every driver. Because I do have some shout-outs I want to give for above the cut line. The first one I want to give to here is my fantasy pick, Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs with a third place run. And, you know, are we seeing a Ty Gibbs resurgence, if we will? Look, folks, Ty Gibbs ran 13th at Martinsville, his first top 15 of the season. Then he finished 9th at Darlington, his first top 10 of the year. Then we go to Bristol, which quietly has been his best track. Always leads laps here, well, except for today, except for Larson. Always leads laps here. Ran top 5 all race long. Got shuffled back, you know, when he was towards the start of the race, but worked his way up to the front. Ended up finishing 3rd. That team is figuring it out. That 54 team is starting to finally ink things out. And really all of Joe Gibbs Racing. I mean, look, Hamlin 2nd. Won back-to-back races. Gibbs 3rd. Briscoe 4th. Christopher Bell top 10. I mean, JGR's already won 5 out of the next 8 races, but it's been Bell and Hamlin that have been carrying the load. The 54 and the 19 have really been nowhere, but we're starting to see these two more in contention along with the 11 and the 20. But I want to keep my focus on Ty Gibbs as well. Again, top 5 speed today. Ran 9th at Darlington. Top 13 at Martinsville. That 54 team is going to be dangerous as we head closer and closer into the season. Folks, Ty Gibbs is not a bad driver. My buddy in NASCAR Opinion even said that he is the greatest prospect in NASCAR history. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's kind of hard to debate that, honestly. I'd have to really think about it, you know. I think Joey Logano was a better prospect, but either way, Ty Gibbs is definitely up there. And I know why people don't like Ty Gibbs. They think he's a silver spoon. He's the grandfather of Joe Gibbs. The Brandon Jones incident. Ty Gibbs has a lot of things against him. You know, whether it's right or wrong, he has that against him. Like, the guy can't control what family he's born into. If he wants to be a race car driver and you have a team owner, of course you're going to take advantage of that. So, he's not a bad driver. You don't win 7 races as a rookie in Xfinity and a championship in the same year. You don't win, 3 or 4 part-time during the part-time season, including one in your debut. You don't make the playoffs last year if you're a bad driver. Ty Gibbs just ran through a slump. as every driver does. As a Dale Jr. fan, trust me, he had like a 3-year slump. So every driver goes through this. And again, I always want to reiterate how different the Cup Series is in terms of competition compared to Xfinity and Truck. It's a different animal. Gone are the days where drivers are winning at multiple races in their rookie year, being championship contenders in their rookie year. That is not the norm. That is an exception, not the norm. I mean, even then, Ty Gibbs in his rookie season was competing for a playoff spot. Last year made it on points. And now, a slow start to the year, but he's finally starting to figure it out. So I'm happy for Ty Gibbs. I'm happy for that 54 team. He's kind of gone underrated. He's kind of getting, I don't want to say underrated, overhated. But that's just how NASCAR fans naturally are. Typically, when someone comes in with money or family connections, you know, they immediately turn on them. Even though Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott are some of the most fan-favorite drivers in the sport, you think they would have an easier path if Bill Elliott and Dave Blaney weren't their fathers? Just saying. Some more shout-outs I want to give here. Carson Hocevar here at 11th. This top 11 doesn't do the 77 justice. He was running top 5 for a lot of the race. That 77 has a lot of speed, and he's had speed for most of the year. However, a pit road issue mired him back in traffic, can only muster up an 11th place result. That 77 had speed. Matter of fact, Spire as a whole had speed, as evident here with Justin Haley in the 7th position. Both of them ran top 3. Really top 5 all race long. Yeah, McDowell wasn't really anywhere. He was all the way in the back. But the fact of the matter is, Spire with the 7 and the 77 showed a lot of promise. And that bodes well for that organization as well. Again, they have a slight connection with Hendrick. But Justin Haley, I kind of been underwhelmed with him for most of the year. You got Rodney Childress on top of the box. You know, Spire loved you enough to where, or liked you enough to where they poached you mid-playoffs from Rick Ware. I'm not saying Haley should be running top 10, but I expect top 15, top 20, and he really hasn't been doing that too much. He's been kind of under the radar. But runs like today prove why Spire went through the trouble they did to grab that driver. At Hocevar, listen, he's one of the fastest drivers in the series, but he's also one of the most raw drivers in the series. Gets into incidents, has mistakes. Today was on the pit crew, not necessarily on the driver, but that 77, if they can put together some complete races, they're going to be dangerous. I can even see them now being a win somewhere, just based off the pure speed that they have, if they could put a whole race together. Again, these two, great job. Some more shout-outs I want to give out. AJ Allmendinger. Colleague has been quietly decent this year. Obviously, AJ's got the fastest lap, but that 16 has been up front more times than not. Even Ty Dillon, which I believe he's going to be probably somewhere lower. Yeah, he finished 32nd, not a good run, but he's had some decent runs throughout the year. As someone who's not a fan of Ty Dillon at all, I have been decently I thought Ty Dillon was going to be bad. I thought it was going to be terrible. But he's been respectable. Which is more than what you can say for a lot of drivers like Keselowski or Cody Ware or even like Legacy Motor Club more times than not. So I want to give a few shout outs for my above the cut line. Again, Ty Gibbs, I really think he's turning in a corner. We'll see what he does. You know, Talladega can make or break, you know, momentum. So we'll see what he does after that. He's always been pretty good at plate racing. Colleague, they're pretty well at the super speedways, and Hocevar almost won Atlanta. So let's see what they can do. We might have some sneaky good winners coming up soon for this season. All right, let's go into race weekend rankings. This has not been a good past few weeks for racing. But as usual, something's got to be at the top. Something's got to be at the bottom. So, oh boy, here we go. Let's just get into it. The truck race. The truck race. I'm not going to spoil it. I'm going to put the truck race number 1. It was the only race that was remotely entertaining. You had Larson hounding down Chandler Smith at the end. Corey Haim just wasn't lighting the world on fire for once. Even Bailey Curry, Raja was in the mix with strategy. It was a really fun race. It was a fun race, not the greatest race in the world, but it was a fun race. I would give this a 6.5, 7 out of 10 race. I feel like these two can mix and match. But I'm going to put Cup at last. I think that's the first time I've ever put the Cup race in last for a triple header. And I'll put the Xfinity race in second. Cup, nothing happened. You had a few spins here and there, but it's like, look, Larson was the fastest car. I'm not going to take that away from him. But no one could really do anything. Again, 175 laps on your tires and you're running like the leader is despicable. I can't defend that. Terrible. Just not good. I mean, yeah, Denny came on at the end. It would have been interesting if the caution came out, what Blaney could have done. But I mean, you had like, what, 9 guys on the lead lap. It was just not a good race. The worst Cup race of the year, in my opinion. Taking over Darlington, which I thought was the worst Cup race of the year last week. And then Xfinity, not much better. The only difference is he had a few more spicy moments, like what happened with Dean Thompson and Cole Custer, that crash. A few more spectacles here and there. That kind of puts it barely above the Cup race. But yeah, this is our race weekend rankings for the Food City 500 weekend. I think Truck, in my opinion, again, easily clears. Like, easily clears. Like, that's not even a debate. So, let's move on here to the race weekend rankings for... Alright. Sorry about that. Alright, race weekend rankings. We got 3 races to go over. I'll just get the bad ones out the way. I'm putting the Cup race at the top of F tier. It just wasn't good. To me, F tier, if you want to make it to F tier, you need to have 2 things. Either number 1, you need to, like, the race either has to be just abysmal or it needs to be unacceptable. Like, for example, the Martinsville race, that finish was unacceptable. The Phoenix race was, you know, unacceptable in terms of the rules. The Cup race, you can't defend it. It was terrible. 9 cars on the lead lap. 9 cars on the lead lap. It's just so much. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. So I would put the Cup race in F tier. Xfinity, I don't know how you could put it anywhere above D tier as well. Again, nothing. I mean, you had one problem, but other than that, I mean, again, nothing happened. Larson dominated. Not a lot of stuff happening. I'll put it at the top of F tier, but again, that's not saying much. Which leaves the Truck race all the way. I'm going to put this race, I'm going to put it at the top of B, in the middle of B tier. I thought it was a pretty good race. Not a barn burner, not an all-timer, but a solid enough race that got the job done. So for me, which is kind of crazy how one race easily clears the others in the weekend. But yeah, those are my race weekend rankings. What are your guys' race weekend rankings? Let me know. Race weekend rankings of 2025 season. This is what we got so far. It's crazy to me how COTA hasn't really been touched at all, in my opinion. I don't think any race has come particularly close to COTA. Which, again, road courses not known for the next gen in terms of good racing, and yet I still have a number 1. And I don't really think a lot of people would really debate that. But here we are so far for the whole 2025 season. We do have an off week next week for the Cup Series. It's going to be just Xfinity and trucks. So I do want to do something a little bit different. I want to do a special edition of Race Weekend Rankings next week. We'll have our typical 2, but I want to have a Cup-focused Race Weekend Rankings for the first 9 races of the season. Let me know if you guys would enjoy that, if that sounds something interesting to you guys. Let me know, and I'll consider it. You know, again, 9 races a quarter of the way through the year. We'll see how that goes. But other than that, we got a comment here. Johnson fan 48. I like NASCAR. I think we all like NASCAR here, but did you like the race though? That's the real question. Did you like the NASCAR race at Bristol? yeah, I mean, this race was just... There's not a lot to talk about. It just wasn't a very entertaining, a very exciting race. It just was boring. Yeah. I'm trying to think of more stuff to talk about for Cup, but there really isn't anything else to talk about in Cup. So, I think that's going to do it for this episode, folks. Oh, wrong one. Nair, no, not really. Let's go into the chat a little bit. Nair, no, not really. I agree. This race was just not the greatest in the world. Would you put it in F tier, though? Let me ask you guys this. Like, Nair, would you put this race in F tier? Or would you put it in D tier? I don't say you could put it any higher than D tier. Again, you saw where I had it. I'll actually post it up again really quickly here. Where would you guys put the Food City 500? Would you put it in D tier? Or would you leave it in F tier? Again, for me in F tier, there's two criteria. There is, the race has to be just terrible, boring, nothing. It was like you're watching an F1 race. Or it had to be just embarrassing, unacceptable, i.e. the ARCA or Xfinity race. I thought these two were just boring, unacceptable. That's where I have mine. Nair says a D minus. Okay. D minus, not necessarily an F. Why would you say that, though? Why would you put that in the D tier but not in the F tier? Like, F tier is just unacceptable. D tier, I feel, is like a slight glimmer of hope. What is that slight dimmer of hope for you for this race? I want to know that. And for anyone else in the comments, too, you can join in on this as well. And then the Xfinity racing, it's slightly better, but not much of an improvement, in my opinion. If I were to change anything, maybe put Vegas, maybe swap Vegas and Homestead, but I still thought Vegas was a better race overall. Of course, Josh Berry helps as well. So that's going to do it for this episode of The Cutline, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed. Again, not much to talk about this week, but, you know, this race didn't really have much to talk about, period. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, again, next week, no Cup racing, so we'll focus on Xfinity and Truck. Maybe we do something special, you know, given that there is no Cup racing going on. We'll figure that out behind the scenes. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you guys want to follow me on social media, you can follow me on Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, at Armani DePaul. Follow us on Daily Downforce. Check out dailydownforce.com. And, before we go, we'll just answer the Nair one more time. Because close racing before everyone was a lap down. Okay. I can respect that. Again, I don't think close racing necessarily means good racing, but I see where you're coming from. So that's going to do it for us, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you in next week's episode. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're going to wave the checkered flag. This is The Cutline, folks. We'll see you. Have a good one.